Here we have a bumblebee, and it's pollinating the blueberry. And this is one of the bees that sometimes he'll chew into the side of the flower if he doesn't feel like nuzzling all the way in there to get at the pollen and the nectar. But it's nice to have them here because without pollinators, we're not going to have fruit. So. Oh, it looks like we might have a toad. Let's go try and catch him. Okay, very cool. Here we have a species of toad. This area right here, it's great habitat, and this is a vernal pool. And here we have a toad, in this case a Fowler's toad. This right here is one of 3 species of toad that we find in New Jersey. And this is the species of toad that breeds here on the preserve. And if you find a toad and it's got a racing stripe down the back, it doesn't mean that it's fast, it means that it's a Fowler's toad. And this guy, if we look carefully at him, he keeps raising his permanent swim goggles. They have an extra membrane or an extra eyelid that they'll bring up, and they'll use that so they can see underwater. Now, he's an amphibian, in sort of the big picture, and amphibians need water to breed, and he's here hanging out in the vernal pools, and they're breeding at this time of year. Now, if we have a bunch of them calling together, it's typically the males that call. They call in what's called a chorus, and that brings in all the other toads of the same species. And in this case, it's a Fowler's toad. So if we were to come back here at night, we'd be likely to hear their call, and it's sort of a call they make. It sounds like reep, reep. And if you hear that, or you've heard it outside where you live, you know that you have Fowler's toads in the area. But a really interesting animal. So here, this is one of the many vernal pools that we have here on the preserve. And there's over 13,000 vernal pools in the state of New Jersey, and they're critical breeding habitat for amphibians. Amphibians, as soon as early March, will come out of hibernation. They may actually be snow on the ground, first warm rains of the spring. They'll come down to vernal pools, and they set it up as far as breeding habitat. In this case, we have 7 different species of frog or toad that breed on the preserve. Males will come down, and if they are calling, it's what we call a chorus. And the chorus brings in the females, and this is where they'll come, and this is where they'll breed and lay eggs. And then the eggs hatch, we get tadpoles, and then very soon we'll have more frogs out and on the preserve, like in the instance of the Fowler's toad that we just saw. So it's nice to see that we have lots of tadpoles in here right now, and that spring's well underway. Check this out. This is great. Here on an oak, what you just walk past all day long is really, this is a giant silkworm moth cocoon. Now moths, they make cocoons, so there's silk that's spun in here. If it was a butterfly, it'd be a chrysalis. But this is one of the giant silkworm moths that we're going to see a little bit later in the summer that'll be attracted to lights either around your house or on the backside of the preserve. So that's great. That's going to be one of our giant silkworm moths. And here, this is a gall. And this, in this case, is an oak. The leaves aren't up that far. I'm willing to bet that it's a black oak, a post oak. And there's a family of wasps known as the Cynipidae, or the Cynnipid wasps. And they have what looks like a stinger off of the back end of their abdomen, but they actually inject into the tree with their eggs a chemical, an enzyme that causes the tree to grow in this formation. And then the young feed inside here, and then they exit. And this one, because we can see all the little holes in and around the gall, we know that the baby wasps have exited from this, and they've gone off and probably colonized other trees. Wow. I know last fall we had caught a praying mantis, and we had talked about their egg casings. And this was laid last fall by one of the females, and when this came out of the female, it was a foam. And again, you could think of it as the foam that you'd spray in a door jamb to keep wind out. But when it comes out, it's a liquid foam, and then it dries hard. And in a little while here, we'll come back, and young praying mantises will exit from this. And they'll come out, and they'll be miniature versions of themselves, and they'll continue to shed exoskeletons and get bigger and bigger. And then a little later in the spring, we'll be dealing with praying mantis. They'll be about that big, and they're really healthy for gardens and controlling insect pests. So nice to see that they're here. This is a fabulous time of year to be out on the preserve and in the woods. And it'll feel totally different here in 2 or 3 weeks. And that's because all of these trees are going to start to put out leaves. And again, leaves, these are what are going to gather and harness that energy from the sun and put it up and make it available for different animal species to eat, be it insects or browsing deer. And this time of year, a lot of things are flowering. In this case, if we look at red maple, and red maple always has some kind of red on it at any time of the year. In this case, we're looking at the samaras, and these are the seeds. And if we were to give them a name, a lot of the children that visit us at the preserve will call them the helicopter seeds, and these will fall. And by late spring, these will have all dropped off the tree, and they will have fluttered to the ground. So, but that's red maple. Right next to it, we have a silver maple. Let's look at that. And this right here, we're looking at a silver maple. And silver maples are a very interesting tree. Oftentimes when we look at their samaras, which are much bigger, oftentimes only one side of the samara is fully formed. And in this case, we can see there's one side fully formed, the other side not. And much smaller seeds from the red maple. By late spring, these seeds will have fallen to the ground, and we can see on one of these trees there's thousands of seeds that will come down, just looking for enough sunlight where it can establish itself as a seedling and then hopefully become a full-grown tree like the ones we see right here. This is great. We have a tree swallow here that's utilizing one of our nest boxes, and they've only been back for a couple of weeks, and they hunt the insects here on Lake McCormack. And it's a great time of year. Birds are coming back, things are starting to green up, trees are starting to flower. And I hope that we see you here out at the preserve real soon. And you can join us by becoming a volunteer or visiting one of our family nature programs. And you can also visit us at www.njaudubon.org. Thanks. Have a great day.